This is a bonus session with Hippy Singmanee at his gym in Bangkok. It's called Town in Town Gym, and it's really hard to find, actually. Hippy is a legend from the golden era. He was 3-time Lumpini champion, twice at 105 pounds and once at 108 pounds. So clearly, small fighter, but very powerful. The thing that he always says to me when I see him is that he wants to give me knockout power. And the thing that strikes me about his fighting style is that despite him being small and very fast in the way that low weight fighters are kind of at a higher pace, is that he definitely sticks to the every move is intended to intimidate and every move is designed to end the fight, which is actually what drew me initially to Muay Thai, was this ethic of like every move is a finishing move. He has a violence in his power moves that I think is not typical of that size of fighter. He's a little bit similar to Ramba in that Ramba is very stingy as well. Everything Ramba throws at you is intended to hurt you, but they're very different men. Like, Ramba has that frenetic energy in his person, whereas Hippy has this total, like, don't interrupt me from my snooker game because I'm going to have to beat your ass and then get right back to my beer kind of thing. So when you go to his gym, it's hard to find, and then you finally get there and you go inside and he's got his like 100 children running around and his wife is very nice, and it just opens up into this big warehouse almost, and it's got graffiti on the walls and like fitness equipment kind of smattered around in the ring, and there's always a very strange cast of characters in there that has a turnover. Like, they're not the same people, but they're the same kind of types of people. So you'll have like little kids who are training, but then you'll also have these kind of like rock star types or like actor types or kind of like underground club types. It's very strange, but amazing at the same time. And Hippy is very welcoming, but also just such a character to himself. He's very energetic in an enthusiastic sense rather than being like super bouncing off the walls kind of thing. When I was working with him this time, you never know what you're going to get from him. He can give you 10 minutes of quality time in an hour, or he can give you like 40 minutes of quality time in an hour, or an hour of it. So you basically just go not knowing what you're going to get, but knowing that you're going to get something completely amazing that you cannot anticipate. So this is why this is a bonus session, is that it's a little bit pieced together from all of the amazing things that happened in this particular visit. So it's a little bit like a DVD behind the scenes, bonus scenes kind of thing. In his pad work, I didn't understand straight away what he was trying to get out of me. As Westerners, we often go to a lesson and just kind of want to follow and be good students about what the trainer is trying to get us to do. If they tell you to kick, you kick, and you want to kick with the correct technique or whatever. But the thing about training with these legends is that they're all trying to get an energy out of you rather than trying to get you to kick the pad. So it took me a couple of rounds to understand that what Hippy was trying to get out of me was Hippy energy, which is, one, total power on every single strike, but also crowding the space and creating pressure in all of the moments between strikes. And I didn't do that in round one, but I started to pick it up in round two, and that's when it became a conversation between the two of us, like a physical Muay Thai conversation, which is what fights are, really. So that got better as we went, and I talk about that a little bit as you're watching those pad rounds so that you can understand how that progression was taking place. But after that, we worked on some technique, and Hippy's technique is really amazing. He has this whippy back and forth thing where, I mean, a lot of Muay Thai is this back and forth because that torque is what creates the power, but the whippiness is what's amazing about Hippy's particular style. It's so violent, and it's the relaxation is what generates so much whip in everything that he does. My favorite part is a piece where he's showing me elbows, And you can see him feeling the elbows when he's showing them to me. You can see his cockiness and his swagger and his like masculinity and kind of player thing going on while he's throwing these incredible elbows. But he also puts it into context of the narrative of a fight. Like, you do these moves at the beginning so that people feel them at the end and that kind of thing. There's also additional bonus material in this of him teaching a kid who is at his gym who's going to be in a movie coming out next year. It's like another Ongbak type movie. So he's been training this kid in Baran moves, and Hippy's style is not Baran. But the thing about these legends from the Golden Age is that the technique they learned comes from this older form that's very beautiful and very... the foundation of it is in the kinds of moves that are very, very traditional and slick, and then you just bring them into the ring with your own style. So he didn't fight like this when he was a fighter, but he's developed it in the years since he's retired. And what's cool about it to me is that he has the beauty of movement that allows you to execute these choreographed moves in a way that you can see the Baran and you can see how it's going to be in a movie like Ongbak. But what's particular about Hippy being the one teaching this kid, and when you're seeing him showing this kid, is that he puts the violence in it. So to see the violence in Baran moves makes you go like, oh my god, when they're doing something, rather than like, wow, that was so pretty. So this session I got a lot out of. I had a lot of fun. I got to see a lot more in depth the kind of person that Hippy is. Such an incredible, kind of crazy person. And I got a lot out of it, so I hope you guys get a lot out of it too. This is a private with Hippy Singmanee at his gym called Town in Town in Bangkok. And this little kid is a southern champion, and Hippy's also from the south, so I think he had a lot of pride in having this kid training with him at his gym. And he was using him as an example to show me what kind of patterns he wanted me to do in the pad work that we were doing. And in our first round, it was a little bit hard for me. I didn't fully understand what he was trying to get out of me, which is like most legends I train with, which is that he wants a certain energy, which is a fight energy. So I'm just trying to do what he's asking me to do with the pad work. That's kind of not the point. But if you watch him, see how he holds his pads staggered like that? That's so that he can hit me back with the front one, but it's also because that's how people fight, is they have their guard and their jab hand. And so he's getting you accustomed to striking and punching through someone's normal pattern, like their body positioning, which is really good to be training people. When I hit him with that knee, I think it went through the pad more than either of us expected it to. So he started like throwing himself backwards off of my knees a little bit in a playful way. But you can see in the way that he's holding the pads, and if you watch his facial expressions and his body movements, what he's trying to get out of me is this kind of relentlessness where it's not high volume and it's not constantly striking, but every strike is deliberate, and everything off of a strike is putting more pressure on your opponent. He was an absolute nightmare to fight, and he's very small, but he's all about power. So you can have someone hit you like 9 times and then you get one power strike. He's having me turn my foot on the teep there. That makes it more powerful. So he basically wants me hitting with the heel. So that's going to launch your opponent off of you. So as a small person, he was demonstrating power all the time on his opponents. He definitely exemplifies the every strike is intended to end a fight of old Muay Thai ethic. Look at his face and the way that he moves. You can see his personality as a fighter. And he wants me to teep off of those kicks. So basically you kick and immediately teep your opponent to off-balance them as they try to counter you. And I'm just trying to kind of follow him and throw the right strikes, which is not what he's trying to get out of me here. But see how he leans over to the side and opens his arms in order to indicate the knee? He's teaching the trigger to see an opening and throw to the body. Like basically you strike until you can nail the body with an opening. And see how he crowds my space a little bit? He wants me to crowd it back. I keep throwing things and then kind of stopping to see what the next thing is. That's not Hippy style. Hippy style is to, even if you get hit, even if you don't block, you keep coming forward because that pressures your opponent. You're stealing their air all the time and their confidence. The first time I trained with him, he told me this story about how he basically would like drink and play snooker all the time leading up to his fights and train for a couple of days and then try to end it as soon as possible so he could go back to playing around. This is very Hippy style here. See how he's slapping one hand out of the way and kind of hooking in order to land the second one? He's got this like flipping back and forth thing that he'll show me later in a drill. But see how I didn't follow him to the rope? He wants Hippy style and he's trying to pull it out of me. That's what he wants right there. He goaded me in, tripped me, and then was like, oh, I fall over you, because he's already coming after me, even though I'm falling down. So every strike is power, and everything that's not a strike is intimidation or pressure. His gym is very strange. It's this big open space like this, like a warehouse, and there are always such interesting characters hanging out every time I go. So here it's putting together the punches and the kicks that he had that kid showing me. But he wants them all to be power, so you're not just like getting through the punches to land the knee. You want to be like emphasizing the power of every single strike. My kicks are different from the last one.
Everything power.
So this was round 2, and I think that I had a little bit more of an understanding on what he was trying to get out of me when we did this one. So with him immediately hitting me as we hit gloves, it kind of set the tone for what he's trying to work on, which is a little bit more playful. But what I didn't understand in the first round that I understood better in the second round was that it's like a conversation that he's trying to have with me. And so see how I'm staying in better? I'm still backing out a little bit, but tracking him with strikes instead of just waiting for what he's calling for. He's happier with this, so he's still stacking his gloves to get this kind of like getting through someone's guard, and then he added this low kick. So he was irritated that I didn't kick right away, because what his style is this kind of like building on everything. Because he's small, he's actually a really quick fighter, but he's not a like tappy high volume fighter. He's more of a like constantly pressuring forward, overwhelming. He liked that one. You can see his smile changed. His kicks are really interesting too. You can't fully tell what a trainer's kicks are like when they're doing pad work, but the straightness of his kick there is his kick. He gets a lot of distance on it, and they're very sharp. But see how he's just trying to get me to respond immediately? So there he kicked me, and when I tried to kick back, he teeped my leg. You almost couldn't see it. And now you can see his hippie energy is starting to really come through, the way he's kind of like bouncing forward. The way he stacks his hands like that also brings out his style, which is this swinging back and forth. Like if you whip one side, it brings your power side back and you whip back immediately. He'll show it again in a better drill later, but he's trying to get it in pad work. It's relaxation, that whippiness. He's playing around. When you can relax and whip from side to side, the technique becomes the power. So see how he's trying to get ultimate power out of every single strike? It's not combination fighting. It's using the back and forth as the pattern of your fighting, but it's not a combination. Everything is power. see how he keeps coming after me? Like, he doesn't let me have a moment where I can just admire the one powerful strike. They're all powerful strikes, and they just keep going. So that here I should be chasing him again. But see how he uses these little tap setups? They're like little stings in order to kind of ensure where your opponent is going to be, but they're still powerful. And here he turns this into a non-stop head kick fight. So at the end of a round, when you're both tired and he's moving around like an opponent who's a little bit dizzy, he just wants me to be throwing head kicks. When you're tired, throwing head kicks is a really interesting thing to learn. And then he puts his arms out in this, like, I'm just going to come and clinch you because I'm tired. And it turns into the endless knee game off of the head kick game. He's teaching fighting in a really brilliant, playful way. So he basically turned this round into a, like, who's more tired round. That was a trip on the outside of his leg from the knee. And so here's that pattern again. So a lot of trainers will have the, like, burnout at the end of a round. And he uses the punches to set up a body strike, which should be the finisher. He's getting a little bit more tired. Go. So this was our last round of pad work, and he changed his pads because he just wanted power. So on one of my private sessions with him before, he had me doing these power kicks on the bag where you swing the bag and just do full power. And again, this is the thing about Hippy, is that he wants you to learn comfort to throw power shots from anywhere. And so he waits until the later rounds when you're already tired, and he works on this. See how he's forcing me to just kind of have rhythm and actually move backwards and then throw these power shots? So this is training your body to be in a relaxed rhythm and then explode out of it. And you want to be on balance coming off of it, as well as having the right timing for when you're throwing the kick. So I keep touching his pads in order to keep him at the distance I want, but also to feel the distance that I want. This is something that you can do with a bag. It's really good to be able to do with a pad man because of the actual body mapping and pressure they can put on you. But you can see how he keeps it kind of like a steady rhythm so that I'm feeling out my space the entire time. He's not putting a lot of pressure on me. But every time I see him, one of the first things he says to me is how he wants to give me more power. Like, he's all about this kind of knockout power and having the one shot that can change a fight. And so now you're doing doubles, and you want both of them to be super powerful. You don't want to kind of muck up one in order to get power on the other one. But it's the same thing of kind of moving around steadily, keeping your rhythm, and then finding the right moment to fire these power shots, because that's what you do when you're actually under pressure and fighting, is finding the right moment. For me, the important part is balance coming off of the kicks, and that's something that Yo Kun Pan has worked with me on, and he actually uses doubles as a way to correct the technique, because you can throw two with better technique. You can't be off balance coming off of it. And so what Hippy's saying is kind of similar. He's like, you have power to start, and then you work on technique. I was telling him I'd been working on those kicks that he showed me on the bag the last time. So here he's just counting them out, but he basically wants the technique to become solid through the fatigue. Like, you get fatigued first by using your power first. You need technique when you're tired, not when you're fresh. But he's still just having me move backwards, and see how I'm not going way out of range? And so now this is just finding the right angles to throw these leg kicks. And he keeps just saying mai parai, which means no problem, which is basically like, this is fun. You can throw in a leg kick at any moment to mess with your opponent or off balance them, or basically like show your dominance. So after we've done the pad work and power, we move into this technique. And this is quintessential Hippy, this like pulling of the arm with this parry, and then coming with power behind it. If you watch the way he does things, the whip of his body and the looseness, it's like how people can relax their fingers, or like when you're whipping a wet towel. He's like the locker room wet towel whip. So he wants to punch off of it, but it's in the parry and slap of the front arm that you bring. See his arms? See how loose? That's what he wants me to be doing with my body. Oh my God. He's whipping back and forth from the hips and the shoulders. So your shoulder has to go back to bring the power of the opposite side. When he does it, it's so scary. Like, it creates tension in the opponent, which actually makes all of his stuff more effective. And so he's doing the same thing where he whips with his right hand, and then he comes with his left leg. So you can do this whipping thing upper body and lower body. So it's high, low, but it's the same whipping. See how straight his leg is when he throws that leg kick? I couldn't see it from this distance, and when I was very unfortunately being the recipient of it. But basically you want to get your shin right on someone's IT band. It's super painful. I'm bending my leg, he doesn't. And he says there are 2 spots. There's one up by the hip and one down by the knee. So it's basically the whole length of that IT band.
Leg almost. He does.
So Kevin's pointing out that he kicks with a straight leg. See how straight his leg is? I hit him on the nerve, right down by the knee. And he's saying this is a counter, so that's why he's kicking me up high. He's doing like a regular mid-kick, and you immediately counter by hitting the person's standing leg. It's a very quick counter, and it builds up over time. See how he like skips forward and his leg is really, really straight? It's very relaxed. But because all his weight is on his standing leg for that mid-kick, which is the bread and butter of Muay Thai, is that mid-kick, you know all his weight is on that standing leg, and you can just slap it. Like, it's not a super difficult move. It's very quick.
Like he kicks with almost a straight
This kid
leg.
is a new student, and he had him doing this just left, right, and then dip.
Yeah, like that.
He had him do this for like 10 minutes. Look at how he twists Hippy when he shows him what he wants him to do. What I'm trying to say to Kevin about the twist is exactly what Hippy was just showing that kid on the left, right. So Hippy's elbows are just incredible. See how he's slicking his hair back to show the trajectory of the elbow? But it's a continuation of that whip he was just showing me. But look at this. Elbow, then push the arm down, and you can throw the next one. This is totally like a Baran move, but you can use it. Look at how beautiful it is. See how he flips his whole body in? He like turns his back. So you're parrying the arm down, like almost to your belly, and then you elbow over it. But you have to have the Hippy whip for that to be what it is. You can't have like a stunted version of that. Your shoulder, the way he twists so hard so that his back comes to the camera is because his other shoulder is coming all the way around. Look at how close he stays, and his whole body just goes back and forth when he does it. And so he's teaching me 1-2 of elbows, but the point is to get the left-right. He's like, if you do it slowly, it's no problem. It's not dangerous. Go ahead and throw any elbow you want. Just do it controlled. Look at his body turn.
Yeah, into his
He's
belly.
trapping my arm with his forearm because of the way he turns. He basically like gets his forearm around mine, and then because he closes his body, my hand is trapped. Look at his face. You can feel his fighter style in that. Look at his body. See how he's protected but ready to go at any moment? I was nervous because I didn't know who was going to elbow. which is totally the point here, is it doesn't matter who's elbowing first because you're protected and offensive at the same time. See how he takes that elbow and comes back with the counter? That's the point. It doesn't matter who elbows first. And see how he can just keep going? He can throw like 16 elbows. And it does not matter what I'm doing. Like, your opponent does not matter. Here I'm catching him on, he's trying to grab around, and I elbow to the inside because my hand has stunted his grab, basically. So this is for the clinch. He's just shoving me off. And then when I come again, he elbows. See how he can move like this from anywhere? It just all flows together. Punches and elbows the same. His shoulders and hips just left, right, left, right.
No?
This is what it feels like to him. What he's doing right there, that like slickness, that's what his elbows feel like to him. His shoulders coming forward, almost touching his chin. See his feet and his hips and his shoulders. And his head comes with his body, but it's not like head movement. The head just goes with the rhythm of what his side to side is. So he comes and grabs me and knees my thigh because that's just in order of everything else.
It's beautiful.
So he's going to tell me the story that I'll just paraphrase because the way he tells it, you don't have to hear. He fought Namkabuin, who's known for plowing people. He elbowed Namkabuin and thought it was going to be over, but the doctor let it keep going. So Hippy's story is that he keeps elbowing Namkabuin. So Hippy thinks he wins. Doctor lets him keep going. Second time. Namkabuin plows him. He's a very aggressive fighter. So Hippy's like, okay, I wait. Waits for a kick. Does his backwards elbow. Finally wins the fight.
Oh.
So here he's explaining more about his fight with Namkabuin, who's much bigger than Hippy. But as Namkabuin was on his way up, like on his rise, he fought Hippy as an upgrade.
Oh, he's coming up.
So Namkabuin was a baby, he was smaller, and Hippy was already older. So Namkabuin beat Gansak, so they're like, oh my god, he's amazing. Then he beat Kompayak, who's Hippy's little brother, and they're like, now we have him fight Hippy as the like upgrade. And Hippy won, even though he was kind of old and on his way out. He said that he cut Namkabuin and he had to get over 22 stitches. He's very proud of this. So here, Hippy is talking about how in Thailand you learn technique slowly as you grow. Like, you start as a baby and you just learn technique over years. What Kevin and I call the slow cook. So we're going back to these leg kicks as counters to the mid kick. And so this is kind of like the process that he was just talking about, which is like you mess around and develop a little trick off of it. He's like, if someone wants to punch you, no problem. This is how he deals with punches. Watch his leg. So I'm like all comfortable punching his guard, and he just jammed his heel into my IT band. He said, in Thailand you have 5 rounds, so in rounds 1 and 2 you can mess around. So this is not super power, but I guarantee you're going to be feeling those heels to the leg in round 5. So I said it hurts in round 5. You do it in round 1, but it hurts in round 5. He's like, yeah. So I got him on just the right spot. It wasn't hard. But it's just the right spot, which is the point. I said it's new to me, so I don't have control. And he's like, this is why you do it. Rounds 1 and 2. He's like, rounds 1, round 2, nobody cares. But in round 5, limping around. I said, after the fight, they remember you. He was like, yeah. I think there were a lot of people who remembered him. This is just a quick clip. Hippy was teaching this kid who's going to be in a movie, like an Ongbak style movie. So he's doing Baran, but it's just so beautiful. So we wanted to include it. And here's another quick one. This is just a beginning student, but watch Hippy's movement in his twists. But also this kid is just learning 1, 2, and then this little dip is like part of the technique that he's learning. So here's Hippy showing that kid how to do like a Baran Chaya block. It's very symmetrical, and you can see the forms in like the bend of the knee and then the flex of the foot. There's an argument about like whether you point your toe or flex your foot on blocks. Old school is definitely flexing your foot. This was really incredible to watch. This is Hippy teaching the Muay, but it's already been taught, so this kid knows what it is, and he's kind of following behind Hippy a little bit. I just kept watching Hippy because it was so pretty to see him feeling and remembering all of these movements. He's done the Muay like a gazillion times, and this is probably not the one that he did in the ring necessarily. But seeing a guy of his age who's retired still so smooth and feeling all of those motions, and there are times that he has like very slight off balance, which is just his, not being a Yod Muay at this moment, was really beautiful to me. There are elements of the Muay that are dance. Here he's showing this like taking the water and making this clay that then is going to go on your face. I had a whole discussion about this with numerous Thai men about whether men ever do this part of the Muay, because it looks like putting makeup on. Nong Tum did it as a Katoi ladyboy trans fighter, and some people will say, yeah, men can do it, but then they'll always add, but men don't do it. So it's very interesting that Hippy added it to this choreography for this kid. But look at his foot going, and just the smoothness of the back and forth as he's keeping the rhythm for the Muay, and the symmetry of all of these different movements. Everything in the Muay represents something. I don't know what all of them are, but so you'll see elements of them. A lot of people from the south, you'll see fishing elements put into the Muay. But the difference in the slight imbalance that Hippy has versus the imbalance that this kid has is completely different. And he's just doing this in his gym with all this other stuff going on in the background. The music stops and he just like keeps going with it. It's so mesmerizing. And then they put on some Muay music for like a second. Look at his arms on that. That's totally his like whipping back and forth thing that he does. But he's doing it as a dance there. This song that they're playing is like an anthem of Muay Thai. You'll hear it before choreographed performances all over the place. This is a little bit like the stalking hunter thing that I do in my Muay that comes from Master K, which is very old. But you can see how he just breaks out of it, out of nothing. Like, beautiful motion, and then he stops. It's like when a ballerina like does a pirouette and then like stops to talk to you or something. Kid monkeying around up there in the background is awesome. But see the bounce and the rhythm in everything that he's doing? Just those little details that are missing as the kid learns it. So this is kind of like that scene in Ong Bak where Tony Jaa is doing the Baran movements and saying the names of them as he does them, and then his master is like, you can never use these. So this kid has learned these from Hippy. He's clearly practiced these a lot. He's only been training with him for like 2 months, they said. But you can see the way he like goes and restarts. Hippy did that one earlier. I like that one. It's like kicking someone's shin. Double uppercut. It's a Hanuman one. You can see how there's like a defense and offense in each of them as movements.
ทิ้งบอลลั่นขาลงบวก
Oh, I like that elbow. It's nice.